Okay, so hello, welcome everyone. My name is Yvonne. I'm the membership coordinator at Bicycle New South Wales. So we've been doing these webinars for for a while now, and having sort of started at Bicycle New South Wales, I realised after chatting to Peter and Lee a lot, there was actually a lot of things that I didn't know as a member, and that I found out while I was working here. So just trying to sort of broaden that knowledge base into the community and make sure members know what's included as part of their membership. So thank you for coming along to today's webinar. Get the most out of your Bicycle New South Wales membership with Advantage Legal. First off, I want to acknowledge the lands I'm presenting from today, the lands of the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. I would like to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people attending today, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. So, what we might do is just start off with some questions about Bicycle New South Wales first. So I've got Peter McLean here, CEO of Bicycle New South Wales, a wealth of knowledge. So I'll just kick off with some questions. So Peter, what makes Bicycle New South Wales different from other bicycle organisations?
Well, thanks, Yvonne. We're the peak advocacy body for all bicycle riders in New South Wales, and we're New South Wales based. And we know New South Wales, we know bicycle riders in New South Wales and the operating environment. So we're closely aligned and partnered with many councils and state government within New South Wales. And we've got staff that actually operate and live in and ride in New South Wales. So we're all about New South Wales. We know the legislation, the regulations, the rides, and we can hook you up with your local bicycle user group to get into some local riding as well.
Awesome. And the next question, can you explain in simple terms what types of insurance are covered under our membership?
So in a nutshell, there's two types of insurance. There's personal accident and public liability cover. So the first one being personal accident covers you 24/7 for riding right across Australia and indeed overseas in some countries as well. It covers all of the non-Medicare expenses. So there's often expenses that aren't covered in the public health system and even by private healthcare cover as well. Those gaps, things like rehabilitation and care costs. Of course, there's permanent disability enablement injuries, death cover as well. And other things, other really important points like income protection insurance as well if you're out of work. So that also, it's important to note, it covers you even if you are at fault in the accident. The second one, public liability insurance. We've actually got the best public liability insurance for any rider policy in Australia. We cover riders up to $20 million of cover. So that's a lot more than what a lot of other comparable policies will provide. And it's important that that cover's in place. Because if you're, again, whether you're at fault in an accident, if you injure something or someone, that's where the public liability insurance is able to step in and protect you personally, and that is used in those instances where something, a property or a person, is injured.
Yeah, that's really interesting because actually looking at the policy, I realized that physio was included, which was something I just didn't think about. So getting physio after an incident would be covered.
Absolutely, physio and some of those care costs and transportation costs. There's a number of small allowances in there to help you get through that difficult process, and all the details are in the policy information on our website.
And in terms of members claiming on those policies, do you know what has been claimed for in the last 12 months, say?
Well, over the last 12 months, we've had a number of claims lodged and indeed paid out successfully in both the public liability and the personal accident cover as well. A number of small claims have been put through for some income protection cover where people have been out of work for a few weeks, as well as some out of Medicare cover expenses as well. In terms of the public liability cover, we have had a couple of members damage some property. For example, bump into a car or scratch it, and that's also been covered as well. But These days, these claims, they're not just small claims, they're quite a few $1,000s. So they're not significant claims in terms of the cover of the policy, but from a personal point of view, they certainly can be.
Thanks, Peter. A question I get a lot is, are e-bike riders covered?
They most definitely are, but we love riding e-bikes at Bicycle New South Wales, and you and I indeed ride e-bikes on a regular occurrence. But of course, they need to be legal e-bikes. So make sure they're not modified, and make sure they're pedal assist up to 25 kilometres.
And are there any age limits to the insurance, and does it cover passengers on the bike?
There's no age limits, and that's one of the reasons why our household insurance cover is actually our most common category of Bicycle New South Wales membership, because it covers the whole family, and so, which is fantastic. So when they might be a passenger, of course, that they're covered. However, of course, if you potentially might be in the situation where you're doubling a friend, they'll need to be covered by Bicycle New South Wales insurance as well. But of course, you are covered when you are on the bike.
And sort of separate to personal accident and public liability, what about bike insurance? So for theft or damage?
We've got cover for that as well through insurance for that. And that can be accessed well directly through that site or on the insurance page under bike insurance. And that's fantastic. We've been noticing a lot more people taking up that cover to cover the property of their bicycle or e-bike if it is damaged or stolen. And so we've been getting a lot of uptake with that. And one of the more common questions I get asked in relation to bicycle property cover is how much does it cost? And I was just looking it up earlier actually, and a comparable, it's quite good quality cover. For a bicycle that's worth around $2,000 in Sydney, costs around $80-$90 per annum to insure. So it's quite affordable.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it was some parents call up and they didn't want to put sort of affect their no claim bonus, so they decided to take out a separate policy. So yeah, it sort of has different people with different needs. It fulfills that. So
Oh, that's a really smart choice.
and so that's some really great benefits. But what are some other reasons to become a member or supporter of Bicycle New South Wales?
Well, the team at Bicycle New South Wales is always really, really busy. We're busy every day working on advocacy to make better bicycle riding conditions for all bicycle riders, advocate for better rights, and of course, better bicycle infrastructure across New South Wales, regional New South Wales, and of course, Greater Sydney as well. We've had some really amazing recent advocacy wins with big infrastructure projects that we've been advocating for, in some cases, decades, like the Sydney Harbour Bridge North Ramp. But we also help members with legal information and legal, I guess, support when they need it, and lots of other links and information on rides and connections to their local bicycle user groups as well.
Awesome. Are there any sort of specific examples of other things that have helped members that we've helped members with?
Yeah, we have received a number of inquiries from members when they have been potentially when they're questioning a fine, for example, when they've been fined by police when riding their bicycle. And we're pretty proud actually. We've actually got a few members off with their fines dismissed when they've been incorrectly issued through technicalities in the legislation. One of them, for example, more recently was a member was not riding in an allocated bicycle path, and they were fined incorrectly, and we were able to communicate that to the government, and the fine just went away. So that member was really, really pleased. But we've also been sharing our letter of demand as well with a number of members, and that's been able to help them when they're in an accident to recover the costs of their damaged bicycle.
Yeah, it's really interesting being on the phones because the number of different questions that we get just about all different bike riding, just really random things, and it's nice kind of having someone for people to call and just ask questions about anything. So it's I'm really happy to be part of this team, and I guess having your wealth of knowledge, Peter, especially. Yeah, just being able to support everyone bike riding in New South Wales.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a member this morning, indeed, and they are actually have to go through a legal process now. The police have decided to progress a quite a horrible incident that they are involved in with a another motorist, and they wanted to understand what process they would be going through, and I was able to quickly explain that to them, and then obviously point them back in the direction of the police to get further information on what they needed to prepare and be organised for court. So they were much comforted by that.
Thanks, Peter. And yeah, so that's my questions for Peter. And I'm actually really proud to work with Peter as he has so much experience on and off the bike. And it was great to learn that you ride a motorbike as well. So just a wealth of knowledge about different things that can happen, and you just bring such amazing heart and care to this job for all our staff and members. So it's been, yeah, great sort of being able to like work alongside you. So thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch over to Lee, Advantage Legal, our legal partner. So let me just pin Lee and then unpin Peter. So I met Lee and Anna in person at the recent spring cycle ride, which I was so grateful that their team was there and I got to meet them because they really helped us out. We have quite a small team, so it was nice to kind of join forces. So I wanted to get on here and really try and share what I learned from chatting with Lee, because I would never think to call up for legal advice because you just think, oh, unless I went to jail or something, why would I get legal advice? And so I really wanted to kind of sum up all the details from webinars that we've done in the past. So I've got Lee Davidson from our compensation partner law firm Advantage Legal, and I'll throw over to him for a little bit more of an introduction.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much, Yvonne. And we at Bicycle New South Wales compensation partner, as you mentioned, but we're also very keen cyclists and very keen to help the cycling community. So we have a lot of experience in helping cyclists and working on cycling injury claims, both for insurance companies and against insurance companies. So we have a very holistic understanding of how it all works. We've been heavily involved with the legislation in the CTP world for some time now, and it really does give us quite a wealth of experience to be able to share with the cycling community. Interesting that you were saying before, Peter, around and Yvonne, around the what is covered under the policy versus one of the questions that we get asked quite regularly is does C2B cover my bike? And it's heartbreaking to hear that people haven't taken out that insurance on their $10,000-15,000 carbon fiber all bells and whistles bike, and somebody's done a runner on them, or they've been knocked unconscious and they're left in the lurch with this bill, or the person that's hit them's got no insurance, or they've got no assets, or they've just hit a pothole and damaged it themselves. So having that cover, I think you've got the public liability cover, but having that extra cover for your actual bike, it's not covered under C2P either. So, please make sure you do take the appropriate things, particularly if you are investing heavily and on the roads regularly in your cycling equipment. It's a wonderful sport, but there are some risks in riding on public roads. So please make sure that you've got the appropriate coverage to look after yourself. From our perspective today, I just got to do the lawyer thing and effectively say, this is not legal advice. It is definitely general information. However, if you want some actual legal advice, we offer a free initial consult. So come to me afterwards. You can get in contact with Bicycle New South Wales if you don't want to come to me directly, and they can put you through to me. Happy to have a chat about your particular circumstances or events offline where you can get some actual tailored advice. But other than that, Back to you.
Thanks, Lee. And so, yeah, just sort of looking at Advantage Legal and the website, it says rehabilitation focused compensation lawyers. So I guess it was interesting to me, and I want to share with people, how did you end up with a focus on cycling clients, and what does it mean to be rehabilitation focused?
Yeah, look, so I think we have, as I mentioned before, many years of working in CTP insurance, but particularly with injured cyclists, both for insurance companies and against insurance companies. And what we realized very early on is that cyclists are actually a different breed of people. They're very, very unique in their desire to get back on their bike and to get back on with life after an accident. So it doesn't seem to, cyclists can have a tremendously traumatic accident and they will still be like, no, I need this for my mental health. I need this for my, to de-stress me. I need this for my fitness. Okay, yes, I've broken my leg in 6 places and I'm in the ICU right now, but doctor, can you please give me an ETA when I'll get it back on my bike? Like, I've seen this happen. So that to me is a very unique bunch of people who work really well with our ethos of rehabilitation focused compensation. And basically what it means is that we're working with you on your rehabilitation very closely, making sure that you've got doctors that are involved, rehab providers that are involved, that understand the particular need of cyclists, people that actually want to get back on with life, get back to work nice and quickly, and get back on to what they were doing. So we work with you and facilitate all of that. We're not treatment providers, so we don't actually provide it, but we're constantly talking, to your treatment providers and the rehab providers from the insurance company to make sure that you're actually getting the best possible treatment outcomes. Now, while we're doing all of that, it's also improving communications between you and the insurance company, which facilitates a nice, smooth environment. It's very easy to fall into a hostile environment with insurance companies, particularly where mental health issues are involved with injured people, and the relationship sours very quickly, and insurance companies think that you are no longer actually actively trying to rehabilitate. So our clients, the cycling community, we work very hard on making sure that they don't fall into that bucket, that they keep that focus on rehabilitation, and we do actually get them back on the bike. So we build that into the rehabilitation plan. So instead of, it's not only just about getting back to work, it's about, let's get you back on the bike, because if you're back on the bike, you're going to actually return to work faster. And for most cyclists that actually do this quite regularly, it's a passion sport. You're not going to take it away from them. So it's like people ride because they love it. It's time to themselves or it's time with the group. And so getting them back on the bike and maintaining that passion, that love of cycling, super important. So we've built that. We've built the model of rehabilitation focused compensation, but a large element of it is dedicated to our cycling clients, where we can really emphasize the particular skill set that we've got to help you with your passion. So yeah, that's sort of from both. And then beyond that, being able to help Bicycle New South Wales with the advocacy.
It will be in a second.
Sorry, being able to help Bicycle New South Wales with the advocacy and support for both, improving legislation and things along those lines, always super important as well. And we actively try to get involved in that space so that we can, advocate for improved conditions for cycling at a legislative level as well. So, I mean, there's a lot happening in the e-mobility space at the moment, for example. We're trying very hard to contribute as much as we can to that. So yeah, look, it's both a preventative and also a reactive model, but that's our passion, and that's why we do what we do.
Thanks, Lee. That's exactly, yeah, what made me so excited that we were working with you. And like after all these years of having this, I guess, the Bicycle New South Wales membership, to kind of actually realize what having lawyers that get it about cycling, what that means for us, and yeah, just so grateful that Advantage Legal are working in this space. And I guess sort of for my understanding, CTP is anything involving a motor vehicle. So that would be the instance, and the sort of specialization of Advantage Legal would be incidents involving a motor vehicle.
Yes. So look, we certainly do other areas of personal injury, but in this context where you are having a motor vehicle accident, Yes, that's, you've been hit by some kind of vehicle on your bike and essentially you've been injured is the other thing. It's not property damage, but there's an injury that's been sustained. And look, even if you're at fault, you do have benefits under the scheme. So it's always worthwhile. There's a common misconception that if you've caused the accident, you've got no entitlement. That's not actually the case anymore. That all changed in 2017, where like the entitlements, there was a smaller entitlement previously, but now you get 12 months worth of treatment, wage loss, and home care. So there's actually quite a big entitlement if you're involved in an at-fault accident as well. You're not going to get a lump sum payout like you would if you were not at fault potentially, but at least you've got some coverage there. And it's sort of, mandated across the scheme. So across for the whole of New South Wales, the accident has to happen here in New South Wales, but you've got that level of coverage, yes.
So this has been covered in other webinars, but just sort of to outline it again for anyone who's new, what's your advice to someone that's been hit by a car? Like, what are the initial first steps?
Look, safety first. So make sure that the situation is safe. For example, the car that hit you may still be hitting other people. So like make sure the situation is safe. Sometimes, people get gears locked or what have you, the accelerator's stuck, the car keeps going. So make sure you're away from the situation. Number two, make sure that you and the other people around you are safe. Somebody could have been knocked unconscious. There could be oncoming traffic still because you're on the M5 or the M4 or something like that. Make sure that you get out of the way. You as an individual, you're on a bike. Make sure that everything's like away. If need be, you've been injured or somebody has been injured, call emergency services straight away. If it's a serious accident, you'll want the police there as well. But at a minimum, you're going to want an ambulance. It's very rare that a cyclist gets hit by a car and doesn't require some kind of assistance, whether it be for shock, broken bones, spinal damage, like it can be quite severe. And you see very common injuries, obviously less brain injuries than what there used to be, now that we've got helmets. But unlike when you're riding a motorbike, a lot of people are wearing Lycra. So you don't have the leathers that you'd ride in a motorbike. So you see very bad grazing, skin to gloving injuries, it can be quite horrific. And so those things need immediate treatment. Not to mention broken bones and spinal damage and, all those precautionary things that, if somebody's been hit by a car, you want to immobilize their neck and things like that. So you don't need to go to any of that detail, but you need to be conscious, all right, this person could be seriously injured. And so, get them just to lie flat, try not to move them and call emergency services. If you're involved in the accident or if you're a witness, all right, please help out if you're not injured, because if somebody is injured, they're going to need assistance. They're going to be shocked. They're going to be, possibly on the floor somewhere. So some of the critical things that if the police don't come to the accident, but even if they do, some of the things you're going to need to do is get what happened at the scene of the accident. So take photos, get people's names, that kind of thing. So full names of anyone involved in the accident. You need this information. Phone numbers, registration details, the details of the car. These are all very helpful things. The time of the car accident, if they've got property damage insurance, if they've got CTP insurance. Now, some of these things can be pieced together with the registration plate. So at a very minimum, like bare minimum, get the registration plate details, because then we can at least track down the vehicle and the CTP insurer. But if you haven't got the details of the person, you're not going to be able to find out without tracking them down, like getting a private investigator or finding somebody who knows them, whether they've got property damage. So if your bike's damaged, you're going to need those personal details. So it's sort of twofold. At a bare minimum for CTP, you need the rego plate. But if not, now I say that with an asterisk, because the CTP scheme, if somebody was to hit you and drove off and you've got nothing because you were knocked unconscious, but there were witnesses and there is a way still to be covered under CTP. There's just a lot more loopholes. So there's this thing called the nominal defendant scheme. Won't go into details about it. We've done a whole nother seminar on it. There's a lot of detail, but just know that if you are hit and run in an accident, or even if you fail to obtain the registration details absent-mindedly, there is another scheme. There's a way to bring a claim still. but you've got to make a conscious effort to try to get it and to try to find it if you don't have it. So that'll be contacting witnesses and all these other things, security cameras, et cetera, et cetera. Now going back to the accident scene, obviously the more information that you can get in the heat of the moment, the better. So photos, videos, anything that you can get of the accident scene before things are moved that demonstrate what's actually happened, try to get it. If there's names of witnesses, get them. If there's contact details for the witnesses, get them. The more you can get, the better, because after they've gone, a lot of the time they're gone for good. And so you're not going to be able to ascertain it. And here's the common misconception, that the police will give you the information. They won't. A lot of the time they won't. And the reason they won't is because we have privacy laws. They're not going to release that information to you unless they're obliged to. And there are certain circumstances where they are, but it is getting increasingly difficult to get that information. So get it yourself while you're there. Get someone to get it for you if you're injured. Okay, if you don't have the capacity to lift up your phone, scream at a witness, say, I need you to get their details for me, I'm injured. That's all you got to do. Finally, if the police don't come to the accident, you must report it within 28 days. So you actually have to go either call the police assistance line or go down to the police station closest to you and report the accident. Now, you may encounter some difficulty with it because the police are of the view that if there is not a serious amount of damage to you or to a vehicle, that they don't actually have to register it or take an account. That is the case for property damage. However, for a CTP case, there is a legislative requirement that it be reported to the police. If the police refuse to take that, still, notwithstanding that requirement, you are required to get the details of the police station, the police officer, and the time that you reported it, so that you can give that information to the insurance company to say that I attempted to satisfy the legislative requirement. So again, there's a whole lot of rules here. And again, this is why you're not going to jail, but reach out to a lawyer, because we can tell you all of this stuff in the heat of the moment. There's a lot of resources on our website about it. It's all there. But when you're injured, knowing all of this in the heat of the moment, try to get as much as you can. Again, the 28-day thing, that's fine. We can deal with that afterwards, as long as you speak to a lawyer within 28 days. Then there's mechanisms for dealing with it after 28 days as well. But those heat of the moment things, that contemporaneous evidence can mean the difference between you being compensated significantly because you've got evidence that you were not at fault versus a he said, she said argument after the event as to who did what. And then you've got to go and pull together what the witnesses saw. So really do try, if you can, to try to get that information as best as you can.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I watched my husband get hit by a car and the police didn't turn up because they said it was like less than X amount dollars
X
of
amount of damage,
and
yep.
so they weren't interested. So
Yep.
that's yeah.
And even when
really,
people are injured, it's like, how injured? Like,
yeah,
are we talking broken bones, spinal damage? Like, what are we talking about? And it's like, loosely, I think it's got to be at that sort of grievous bodily harm level. And that's sort of what I've noticed. It's not, I don't think that's a rule, but that's sort of, the lower end of the injury spectrum doesn't really warrant police automatically taking it. You've sort of got to press for it under the CTP legislation requirements in order to get it lodged. And look, can I say to you, even when people come to see us a week after the accident and I tell them exactly what they've got to do and what they've got to say, unfortunately, sometimes the police don't do it because, they've got limited resources. There's reasons why they're not taking the reports. I'm not blaming them, but the reality is we've got to do this in order to get the claim lodged. So at a bare minimum, you've got to try, and you've got to try within 28 days.
yeah, yeah. And what's the ID? Is it like a report number or something that you have to get?
So that they'll give you an event number.
Event number.
Once it's lodged, yes.
Yep.
So it'll be E and then a series of digits.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that's what the insurance company's looking for, to be honest.
Yep.
And to be fair, if you're lodging a property damage claim and it's a significant one, the insurance company for the property damage insurer will want that as well. So, but again, if one's not issued, you've still got to say, I tried to report it. This is where and when it wasn't successful though.
Yep, yep. Thanks for that. And so I guess like just if there is there anything else like if I was a witness that I can do to
Mm.
help other than sort of getting all the information? Is there any additional things?
Look, like I said, I think the key element is put yourself into the shoes of somebody that's just been hit by a car. All right, don't run away. Try to help them. What you saw and what you write down and the photographs that you might take might literally change this person's life. You don't, it's not an inconvenience. I'm sorry, it might be a small inconvenience to you, but in terms of what this person that's just been hit by a car is about to go through psychologically, physically, and the impact on their life and their family's life. Remember, you're not just like there's these people who ride bikes have families, right? They get hit by a car, their whole world turns upside down. When you know that, please stop and help. And if you see that they're badly injured, call emergency services. Don't hesitate. It's one of those things where um, the more you can offer assistance, even if you're just doing it independently in the background, while the emergency services are doing their thing, take photos, take videos, get people's names down, and then just message, get the person who's been injured text details and send them a message and just say, I've got all of this. Let me know when you need it. You'd be surprised how often witness evidence can completely change the direction of a case. Because if it's the driver versus the cyclist, you can promise there's going to be two separate versions of events. Only very, very honest people will come forward and say, yeah, I hit him. It was my fault. I didn't see him. Right? Quite often there are situations where people just lie through their teeth in order to get out of because they think they're going to be punished by in the criminal sense. So they say no, they change the version of events. Unless you've got surveillance footage or witnesses, it's very hard when someone's been knocked unconscious on a bike. They've got no recollection of what's going on. So your what you do in that heat of that moment can really, really help the injured person.
Yeah, that's a great reminder.
Mm,
So getting a little bit deeper into the if something happens to me while I'm on the bike, what if
mm.
I'm so injured that I can't even call you or look at like go online and like work out what to do?
Mm. So look, I mean, it's probably a bit of a self-plug, but it's sort of like if you need to reach out to somebody that knows what they're doing. And unfortunately, in this space, the rules are very complicated. There's a lot of time frames that need to be adhered to. And if you don't comply with them, you start losing benefits. And so if you yourself don't know what to do, get someone else to reach out for you, a family member, a friend, somebody that's visiting you in the hospital. I mean, a lot of the time, you don't necessarily want them completing the paperwork for you. You want them to reach out to someone that knows what they're doing. And there is a bit of a misconception that, like, the social workers at the hospitals and the doctors, that your general practitioner, because they've probably seen one of the two of these things in the past, know the intricacies around what they're doing. I look, and with all due respect, it's not the same as getting legal advice. Okay, and the legal advice is free. You'll get an initial consultation from a lawyer who will say to you, this is what you've got to do. We're going to help you fill in the claim form. I'm going to take you through it to the best of what we know right now. If you've got no recollection, we're going to write you were involved in an accident. We don't currently have any recollection of what's gone on. We can get that information into the claim form. But look, I mean, the paperwork itself, do you want me to go through some of the timeframes or like that kind of thing? Or
Um, yeah, maybe just briefly outline.
yeah, so you've got 3 months to bring a claim, but if you don't lodge it within 28 days, you start to lose benefits. So it's a little bit contradictory. So we always just say to people, look, you've got 28 days to lodge a claim because if you lodge it within 28 days, the insurance company will back pay your wages to the date of the accident. If you do it after that, you've got to give an explanation to them as to why you didn't do it within the 28 days. So you're creating extra barriers for yourself, and then the insurance company can say, well, I don't think that's a good enough explanation. Therefore, we're not going to back pay you your wages for the month. We'll start paying you from now. So again, just the easier way, again, you got the police at 28 days, you got the claim at 28 days. It's easier to remember it that way. If you're unable to lodge the claim, again, get a family member to do it. My recommendation is that you do it in conjunction with legal advice. If you need someone to go to the hospital, you know, a lawyer will come and see you. You can do video conferences from the hospital. I mean, like this is it's people, this line of work, we do what is necessary for people in their time of need, and that's what people need to realize. It's no different to a lawyer having to go down, you know, into jail where you've been locked up by the police, right? If necessary, we will come to you. So I think that, and again, the final sort of thing is that once all that's lodged, so you've got your event number, which is from the police within 28 days. You've got your claim form that's prepared within 28 days, but that needs to be accompanied with a medical certificate from a doctor who called a certificate of capacity. And that's very important that that's filled in correctly. We see a lot of errors in that space. The doctors don't do it deliberately. It's just that they're not necessarily familiar with the requirements of the CTP scheme. So on that point, I would just say to everyone, please, no matter how trivial the injury is, please, please, please make sure that every injury is listed in that certificate. Because if it's not, the insurance company is unaware that it has been injured in the accident. And therefore, when you ask for treatment 3-6 months down the track and it's not on that certificate, they're not going to approve it, or it's going to be very hard for it to be approved. So just do make sure, no, you'll get some resistance from the doctors. Just make sure that you remember every injury's got to go on that medical certificate because the insurance company needs to know.
Yeah, wow, that's lots to think about. So, yeah, good to, I guess, think about it before it happens, but then know what steps you need to take. So shifting the focus a little bit, so I guess there's a lot of types of insurance. So can you sort of explain the difference between like claiming from workers' comp versus CTP versus comprehensive insurance? Like when would you do which one and how do you know?
Yeah, sure. So the interesting thing about it is that if you were involved in an accident while you were riding your bike in the course of work, you'd actually have dual compensation entitlements. So it does get a little, you've been covered by workers' comp and CTP. So it does get a little bit conflicting in that sense, but let's sort of push that to one side and essentially just go CTP covers you for injury if you're involved in a motor vehicle accident. Fault or not at fault, the benefits differ depending on that. And it also depends on how severely injured you are. So, you know, the circumstances of the accident and the severity of your injury will determine the benefit. But if you're involved in New South Wales in a car accident on your bike, you'll be covered under CTP. Comprehensive insurance is typically the type of cover that you would take out on a vehicle. And that would cover, so if the vehicle hits you, you would then, you know, and you were not at fault, then it would cover you for the damage to your bike. It'd cover them for the damage to their vehicle. Obviously, Peter, is the insurance for that considered comprehensive insurance technically, or is it more just it's a bike cover? I'm not sure what the actual technical term is.
It's comprehensive, yes.
Yeah, so you could take out insurance for that. It'd have the same thing and have the same implication. So if you hit somebody with the bike, it's going to have that sort of similar coverage. Or if you damage some property, it'll have some coverage too. So, and then if your bike yourself, your bike, you know, your own property is being damaged, not just that third party element, you're going to have that coverage as well. So think property damage when you think comprehensive, right? So damage to your bike, damage to property that you actually hurt your bike, and the other, you know, if you damage a building, if you damage anything along those lines, so another car or something like that. Even if you damage another person's bike, technically, if you had comprehensive bike insurance, the other cover would kick in. So workers' comp covers you if you are classified as a worker, all right? And that's a very technical definition. I won't get into it now, but if you are a worker in New South Wales and you sustain an injury in the course of your employment, you would then be covered under workers' comp. And so with that sort of intricacy there, you could see, so if you were working, you know, I don't know, if you were riding from office to office, for example, so you're doing that as the mode of transport in the course of your employment, that you would be covered under workers' comp. Now, just to be super clear, traveling to work and from work home, not covered. That's only under CTP. So they removed that a little while ago. So that was, yeah, so you've got that level of coverage. So car, work, property are the three differences.
But on the upside, our Bicycle New South Wales membership does cover you for your commutes. So
It does. It does. And look, the beautiful thing about the Bicycle New South Wales coverage is that there are a lot of circumstances involved where you could be involved in a bike accident where a car isn't involved. You could be out on a bike trail somewhere. You hit a tree, you miss a jump, those kinds of things, and you sustain quite significant injury. No CTP policy is covering you in that circumstance. So you've got, there is a great deal of benefits where there's a lot of things that fall outside of what a motor vehicle accident is or what a workplace accident is, and it falls into this giant vacuum of I've got no cover beyond your health insurance. Well, that's not going to help you pay the mortgage. That's not going to help you pick up all of those incidentals that the health insurance coverage doesn't cover, the gap things, all of the things that it doesn't cover. So, there is a big benefit to the Bicycle New South Wales coverage when you find yourself in that particular circumstance. And unfortunately, it happens a lot. And so even if you were under CTP at the 12-month mark and if you were at fault when you get cut off the CTP scheme, that benefit is now ceased. Well, arguably, you've then got the benefit that you could pick up under the Bicycle New South Wales coverage again. So again, there's lots of different things that you could be, lots of different ways you could benefit from that policy coverage.
yeah, that's lots to think about. So I'm just going to skip down to one of the questions that actually I was talking to someone and they said, oh, but it would be too time consuming or too much effort to seek legal advice. And I guess what would you say to that person that's sort of thinking that way?
Look, it depends on the severity of your injury. Okay, so if you've had a minor injury and you're comfortable dealing with an insurance company that has in-house lawyers and well-trained claims assessors and external legal panels yourself, go for it. But I would say to you, if you've got a significant injury that's, you've got some time off work, you've got significant ongoing treatment impacts, and it's really, you're not performing at work the way you used to, not getting legal advice, you don't have to get legal representation, but not getting legal advice will be the single worst decision you will make in that claim process, right? You could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. We see so many people attempt to navigate the system alone, only to come to us when they've made critical errors, and we spend years trying to fix and unwind what has been said because they didn't realize what they were being asked, the implications of what they were saying, and actually even how to quantify their own losses, for example, because most people think, oh, I've got I get compensated for my time off work, and when I go back to work, there's no further losses to me. Well, what if you're not performing at the same? What if you're losing your commissions or your bonuses and all that? Being back at work and working a 9-to-5 job doesn't mean that you're not sustaining an economic loss. What if you don't get promoted again? So these are all things, you're on a fast track to being the next, I don't know, the partner of an accountancy firm. And now you're stuck at a senior associate level and you're never going to be any more than that because you can't keep up with the high pace environment. That's compensable. And people don't understand this. And this is what I'm saying, where there can be significant losses that people don't appreciate can be claimed, and they need somebody to actually figure out what their future intentions were in order to unlock that. So getting legal advice is so critical. It really is. And, at the end of the day, I appreciate that that's self-serving. It is. But even if you don't come to me, all right, get legal advice. It's going to help you. I promise you. And the worst thing that you can do, you can go and get the legal advice and not do anything with it. Most of the time at the initial consult, I mean, we offer an initial consult that's no win, no fee. Most of the industry does too. So what harm does it do other than, an hour of your time with a lawyer on a video call? You don't even have to travel most of the time. We do it all on video conference. We help people across New South Wales. If somebody in the back of Burke gets injured, I'm unable to travel out to them, at the drop of a hat, but I can jump onto an immediate phone call or video call with them and give them the advice. So, look, if you do come to us, I mean, it is always seen as a burden to engage a lawyer and what have you, but we try to take that burden away from you. We take the instructions, we facilitate the paperwork, and we engage with the insurance company so that you can focus on your rehab. So why would you, yes, it's probably going to take an hour or two for you to give me some paperwork and then to meet with me, but in the longer term scheme of things, it's going to save you time and you're going to be able to focus on your rehab instead of worrying about, oh, are the insurance company going to approve that? Are they going to cut me off? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, you can, instead of dealing with the insurance company directly, you can come and ask us those questions and we can give you the reassurance that you need based on our experience and understanding and knowledge. So, look, again, you'd be crazy not to, but I think it is a matter of people understanding the benefit that a lawyer can bring in this space versus not having one and dealing directly with the insurer. And look, there's plenty of people that do deal directly with the insurer. I'm not dissing that. If that's your modus operandi, go for it. But the reality is that if you do get a lawyer, somebody who's got experience in this space, I mean, we're accredited specialists in personal injury law at our firm. What have you got to lose besides a bit of your time?
Yeah, and I guess let's go into that sort of like a real life situation of like an example of where someone did come to you and get that legal advice, and what was the difference sort of in like I guess something that demonstrates the value of getting legal advice.
Yeah. So look, typically the process is that if you go directly with an insurance company, they're going to send you to their doctors. Based on what their doctors say, they're going to make you an offer of settlement. And look, there's always a variance in opinions. Now, if you've only got one side of that opinion, you're going to get one offer based on one lot of evidence. If you engage us, we will get a second set of evidence for you. We will get our own doctor's opinions. We will put together a case for you that says something different to what the insurance company, the way they view it. And so in a circumstance, so we had a client who came to us quite late. The insurance company had done all of their evidence. We hadn't had a chance to do it yet. They had already offered him, it was I won't go into exact figures, but it was less than $100,000, which might seem like a lot of money, but in the context of this case, it really wasn't. His treatment had been denied because he was going missing in action, like he wasn't corresponding with the insurance company. The wages had been terminated for him because he wasn't complying with his rehab goals. Now, the insurer just said you're not complying. They didn't dig deeper as to why the non-compliance was going on. So he came to us and just essentially said, I'm in dire straits. I've got no money. I've got no treatment. The insurance company hate me. What do I do? I've got this offer here to settle the case. I'm desperate for money, but somebody said, reach out and speak to a lawyer first. Thank God he did, because we got involved. We got all the materials. We got the treatment restarted for him because we realized his non-compliance was to do with the severity of his psychiatric reaction to the accident. He didn't understand everything that was going on. It became overwhelming. So yeah, he was non-compliant because the guy could barely get up in the morning. So it was quite a distressing situation. Now we sort of got on the phone and smoothed everything out with the insurer, got everything going again, got a new rehabilitation provider involved because there were some issues with the rehab provider, and smoothed everything over. Now, we then got his wages reinstated and then started the damages claim process for him. We went and got our own evidence. We fully appreciated what was going on with his particular case, went in and got to know him and understood, all right, this has really rocked your life. He got over $700,000 in the end. So that was over a 600K increase simply by putting in the phone call to us rather than saying, yes, I accept that offer to the insurance company. So again, not only did we get his rehab, and this guy went back to work after we got involved as well. So we got him back. It took a little while, but we got him back to work. But the impact on his life was substantial. And once the insurance company realized that he wasn't actually non-compliant with his rehab, he just needed help. So we changed up the rehab goals. We got him working, and we were fully involved in the process. That was an amazing outcome because we got him back to health and with his life. He still had issues, don't get me wrong. Like it's when you're involved in a serious car accident, it is hard to just put it behind you, right? But we got him back to some kind of normality, and got him back to work. And he did, his rehab and everything got, his relationships improved again. He got divorced from his wife, things like that. It was a very sad case. But look, the thing is that the money, that was a substantial increase in what the money was owed. But I don't want to just emphasize, yes, that was a great payout. The big win here was also the fact that he got his life back because of the rehabilitation approach that we took. It's very easy just to go, no, no, just leave him sitting there and stay at home and don't do all of these kinds of things. You'll get a bigger payout, right? We don't do that, all right? It's not the right way of doing things. And to be frank, if you can demonstrate to an insurance company that somebody's willing to try to get on with their life again, they're far more likely to help you. So you never abuse the staff at an insurance company. You try to work with them to the best that you can, but in a case like this, it took a lot of team effort, changing of some treatment providers to get things back on track, because there'd been a lot of sort of yelling at different people at different intervals. So refreshing the treatment providers is sort of how it all works. So that was a really good outcome, but also a really good example of if you're getting offered sums of money by an insurance company on a lump sum basis, always go, it should be a trigger for you to go and seek legal advice. If you've got that far, chances are you're going to be entitled to more than what you're being offered.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, thanks for going into that detail. I think the biggest thing I've learnt is that even if you don't know the reg of the car, like it's definitely,
Mm.
there's schemes and things, and having people that know about all of that information is really, really important, because
Yeah,
it's not, general
it's not
stuff.
general knowledge. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I might, with sort of a few minutes left, throw to Peter to run the Q&A session section of the session. So I know we've got a few questions, and I know some of them aren't necessarily relevant to this session, but we'll take them on board. Yeah, over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Yvonne, and yeah, thanks, Lee. Also, that's lots of fantastic information and questions there, and I certainly learn a few things as well. But we do unfortunately have a few questions in the chat, so it's not too late to put one last one in as well if you've got something burning on your mind. The first one though is from Michael, who's keen to learn rider leader. He must be a ride leader, and as many of them are. Um, uh,
I think Michael's popped off, so maybe I'll get back to Michael about
yeah,
that, and then yeah, we'll go into Ben's question about the public e-bike.
yeah, Ben's asked a question around public e-bikes, and if you're injured, sorry, if there's no helmet and he gets in an injury by, well, if a car was hit him, is he still covered by the Bicycle New South Wales policy? Yes, you would be. However, we would uh, strongly suggest that you always wear a helmet and select a bicycle with a helmet on it. There are plenty of bikes with helmets on them, and we would absolutely heavily suggest always to wear a helmet.
Mm.
And choose one of those bikes, because many of them still do have helmets attached to them. That also partly becomes a liability issue for the shared e-bike provider as well, but that's a whole different story.
And you've got a C2P element here if you're not. So there's a thing called contributory negligence. So if you're riding and you're hit by a car, whether you're at fault or not, if you're at fault, you're going to have a limited range of benefits, but you'd still come under the C2P scheme. But if you were not at fault and you weren't wearing a helmet, they look at it and go, well, how much of your injury is attributed to the fact that you weren't wearing a helmet? And so they'll reduce the amount of money that you're actually paid by that level of contributory negligence. And in the circumstances, it could be 25, 50%. It just depends on the severity of the injury and where you've hit. If you damage your back, you're not claiming a brain injury, are you? So, but if you had a brain injury and you're wearing a helmet, maybe you wouldn't have had that injury in the first place. So there's different variances around the impact of the accident in the C2P scheme. So yeah, look, it goes beyond just the Bicycle New South Wales policy. You've got to think about your health and the impact on your future as well, because you'll be calling on the C2P scheme to deal with that.
But again, moral of the story, wear a helmet.
Mhm.
It'll make
Absolutely.
things a lot better. Ben's second question is if he's leading a ride and as a ride leader with two people who have an incident, is he covered? If he's a Bicycle New South Wales member, which I am almost certain he would be. And don't forget, ride leaders get a big substantial discount off their annual membership. So talk to Yvonne about that. If you're not already getting it, then yes, he definitely is covered, as is the bicycle user group, because we provide the public liability insurance for the bicycle user groups as well, nearly 40 of them across New South Wales. The Michael has a question, another Michael, and this one's actually for you, Lee.
Mhm.
Generally or typically speaking, how are law firms paid when supporting representing a claim case?
Depends on the case that's being run. So the typically, let's just assume it's a damages case because that's what everyone will be probably more interested in. So you're talking about that lump sum payout part. In that, you operate on the case on a no-win, no-fee basis, and you, at the conclusion of the case, the legal fees are a contribution is made by the insurance company, but typically there's a gap payment. Think of it like your health cover, and that comes out of your settlement at the end. And that would cover things like your legal fees, but also, the medical reports, if you've got to get accountants and all that kind of thing to pull together your financial circumstances. So all those things cost a lot of money. And so effectively you just pull that out of the settlement at the end of the case. We do get asked a lot of questions around, there's people fear lawyers and how much that's all going to cost. When you engage a lawyer, they're required to give you an estimate of what the legal fees will be in your particular circumstances. And so based on, what is involved in your case based on their experience. And so if you are engaging a law firm, or even if you're engaging us, or if it's a different law firm, it's important that they give that to you and that they take you through it. Like a lot of people will just ram it under your throat, and say, here, sign here. Take time to go through the detail and understand it, because you do not want to get to the end of a case and then realize you didn't read the detail and your legal fees are far greater than what you first thought. Okay. Our approach is very transparent. We want to make sure that people understand it. We'll always give it to you. We'll send you away with it. We want you to read it and come back to us so that you understand what you're signing. So again, no win, no fee. And look, the benefit with us, Bicycle New South Wales member, will also give you a discount if you're a member at the time of your accident. So another incentive to take out a Bicycle New South Wales membership.
Excellent. And there was another ride leader question in there, but yes, ride leaders are absolutely covered. But we are going to be running a session soon with the bugs to answer some of their more detailed, specific on-off bike coverage, e-bike, non-e-bike coverage, all the rest of it. But ultimately, if you are a ride leader and you have Bicycle New South Wales cover, you are covered with public liability insurance.
And ride leaders also, if you're ever in doubt about things that you want to be, asked about the CTP scheme, get in contact with us direct or get in contact with us through Bicycle New South Wales. I'm always willing to have a chat and just educate you generally. If you've got general members, we've got a lot of resources on YouTube, on our website. I can direct you to all of those as well. So if you go on to any of our blog pages as well, or even access our website through the Bicycle New South Wales website, there's a downloadable guide on what to do after an accident and everything you need to know. So again, there's a whole heap of resources that we've tailored for the cycling community, but Bicycle New South Wales in particular, just to make this information regularly available beyond these webinars.